because the prefix of bi means two. Okay, so two variables. Okay. We're going to compare two variables. And guess what? Today, all we are looking at is bivariate data. So all the data we look at today is going to have what? Two different things that we're going to compare. We're going to learn about these two different things. Okay? When you compare two different variables, pets and children, you're going to learn something about it. What did you learn about the survey that you did yesterday for homework? Okay, so most parents who have a pet or most parents who have a kid will probably have a pet. That's what you learned with that survey yesterday. We're going to learn more about some other surveys today. Okay, so let's take a look. It says the table shows data from a survey of 50 adults. Okay, they had to pick their favorite leisure activity between the three activities that were presented: dancing, sports, or TV. And then I asked gender, men or women. Okay? How many women? Now and there's my results. I already made the table for you. You're going to answer the questions now. How many women like sports? 6. How do you know? You go to where women and sports match up. They match where the 6 is, so that means 6 women chose sports as their favorite leisure activity. Okay? Next question, how many men like TV? 8. And where do you go for that? Where men and TV meet, and there's 8 there. How many people like dance? Now I kind of changed the question, didn't I? Why is this a total now? Very good. I just asked people now. I didn't ask men or women, so it's both men and women together. How many like to dance? Okay, 18. Very good. Questions on any of those 3 questions on how to find those answers? Not too difficult, right? So I got to step it up a little bit, make it a little bit more challenging for you so your brains grow today. Okay? Looking at the totals for the 3 activities, which activity is the most popular? Why? It has 2 more people that enjoyed that rather than the other 2 activities. Okay? So dance. And then the second part of that question says, were they all pretty equal? Notice my question. There is a key word in here. It says all pretty. That means it's what? Close to equal. Are they all close to equal? How so, JJ? Okay. 18, 16, 16. They're all really close to each other. There's not a big difference. Not one really stands out than the other, right? So were they all pretty equal? Yes, they were. Okay. Here's a little bit more difficult question. Is there a difference between what men liked and what women liked in this survey? Okay, where are you going to kind of look at this? Jack? Okay, what does the total on the right side tell you? So what these totals tell me is that there's 20 men surveyed and 30 women surveyed. Does that tell you is there a difference between what men and women liked? Okay, that tells you how many of each were surveyed. That doesn't tell you a difference between what they liked. What are you going to have to look at to tell a difference in what they liked? Charlie? You're going to have to look at each of the sections. Okay, go to the men and see what was most popular with men. Sports and TV was pretty close, right? Okay, they both were a lot higher than dance. Okay, how about for women, what was more popular? How do you know? This doubles any of the other ones, right? At least. So that tells you now that, okay, most popular with men was what? Sports and TV, and then more popular with women was dance. Is there a difference between what they liked? Yeah, there was. Okay? So that's where you're going to get that answer. Okay? So is there a difference? Yes. Men preferred what? Sports and TV, where women preferred dancing. Any questions on how to read the table? Anyone know what that table is called?
A two-way table.
Very good. Okay, because what is the title of this page? Reading a two-way table. Okay, so this is called a two-way table because you can look at it two different ways. I can look at it vertically, or I can look at it horizontally, and I can learn different information depending on which way I look at it. Okay? Now, there's another two-way table here. This is where it gets fun because it's like a puzzle. Okay? You have to make the table. I already drew the table for you. You have to fill in the information from the paragraph that I gave you. Okay, so let's read this together and see if we can figure it out. Go ahead, Kim. Well, you started. You might as well, yeah, go ahead. Okay, stop for a second. What kind of data are we looking at today? What kind of data? Okay, and it's how many variables? Two, so it's bivariate data. What are your two variables in this? I just did it in the introduction, told you what they are. Good. Allowance and household chores. So what you're going to do is you're going to, down here, you're going to say allowance, no allowance. So they get an allowance or they don't get an allowance. And then what do you think this third one is going to be? The third one here. That's a total of allowance and no allowance. Okay? Then down here we're going to have what? Not
what they do?
Chores or no chores. And then the last row? Total. Okay, so that's what the first sentence gives you. The first sentence tells you what you're going to do here, what your two variables are. Okay, now the rest of the information is going to tell you numbers and where to put them numbers. Okay, so Kim, I want you to read it slowly. Okay, comma. That means pause, right? I just told you some information. I gave you a number. 12 students get no allowance. Did I say anything about chores or no chores in that? So what does that 12 tell you? A total of no allowance. So I put my no allowance and total where they meet. That's a 12. Okay. Questions? Everybody understand why I got put 12 where I did? Okay. No? No questions? Okay. Go ahead, Kim. Okay. So what did I just say? 5 of them what? What is them referring to? Very good, Charlie. Them is referring to the 12 that we just talked about in the first part. So 5 of the 12. Well, what did those 12 do? What did the 12 at the beginning tell us? So 12 of them did no allowance, and then 5 of the 12 that did no allowance also what? No chores. So where am I going to put that 5? Right above the 12. No allowance, no chores is 5. Good. Okay? Ready, Kim? Okay, comma. That's a pause. There are 17 students who do chores and receive an allowance.
So that goes in the first bar.
Why?
Because it tells us that 17 of them do chores and they get
They do both. So they get both. Very good. Okay. Ready? Okay, go ahead.
while 6 students get an allowance without doing any chores.
Okay. Where was that going to go? Allowance and no chores. Good. Did I tell you all of the numbers? Can you figure them out? How so? Rylan?
Adding and subtracting.
Okay, so which one do you want to figure out first?
The chores, no allowance.
Chores and no allowance. How can you figure that out?
12 minus 5.
You know there's a total of 12 that did no allowance, and there's 5 of those 12 that did no chores, so that means there's how many left? Good. Okay, what else can I figure out next? Okay, the total for the 2 rows. For the first row is what? 17 plus 7? 24. Okay. How about for no chores? 11. Okay, what's next? The what? Oh, I just didn't hear you. 17 plus 6 for total allowance. How many students get an allowance? 23. Okay, what is this that we're going to find down here? 23 and 12 is? 24 and 11 is? Do they both add to the same number? They should. If not, something's wrong. What does 35 tell us? Very good. Total student survey. Okay, any questions? Isn't this fun? Trying to figure this puzzle out? Ooh, I love it. I love it. Okay. I'm going to go to this, and then I'm going to come back to this if we have more time. But I want to talk about what this is today. Relative frequency. New vocab word. Okay? You might want to highlight this word. That's a new vocab word. Relative frequency. Relative frequency is a percent, basically. Okay? You're going to find the percent. And the way that you find that is just like you find the percent that you scored on your test. I always use this because you guys always know how to figure out your percentage on a score, right? Or on a test. How do you figure out the percent you got on a test? Okay, perfect. You take the number that you got right, divided by the total number, right? Okay, so that's what this says. It says the subgroup divided by a total. Okay, and the subgroup that you're talking about in your test is what? The number you got right. That's the subgroup. And then what's the total on the test? The number of points on the test. Okay? So if it's a 75-point test and I get a 70 out of 75, to figure out the percentage, I do 70 divided by 75 and I get my percent. But am I going to get a percent or am I going to get a decimal? And then you do what? You change the decimal into a percent by doing what? Times by 100. You move the decimal 2 spots. Okay, very good. So I'm using the same two-way table that we used at the beginning, okay, with the men and the women and what activity they like. Okay, you can compute the relative frequency tables for rows or columns as well. So I could say, if I just look at women and I cover up the men, okay, I want to know out of total women, how many of them, what percent like dance? What would you do? I want to know, out of total women, what percent of them like dance? 16 divided by 30. Because what's your subgroup this time? No, what's your subgroup? Women who what? Like dance. That's your subgroup. What's your total group? Total women. So the subgroup is women who like dance. The total is total women. Okay? So, relative frequency, what percent of men chose sports as their favorite activity? So now we're just looking at what? The men. So I'm covering up the women row, and I'm looking at what percent of men chose sports. Well, how many men chose sports? How many men chose sports? 10. How many men are there? So I do what? 10 divided by 20, it's going to give me 0.5, which is 50%. Good. Okay, I can do it by columns. So here's a column relative frequency. What percent of people who like sports are women? So you have to think, what is my total? 30. What was the total here? What percent of people who like sports? How many people like sports? How many people like sports? Okay. And then how many of them that like sports are women? So I'm going to do what? No, not 6. There you go. You're going to do 6 divided by 16. And what decimal do we get? You're going to want to grab a calculator.
.375.
375? Okay. So what percent is that? 37.5%. Okay. I want the percent. Yep. This is a way to show your work, though. Okay? Because you know it was 6 out of 16. Okay? So a row relative frequency. Rows go this way, right? So that was the row. I talked about the men row. A column frequency. I talked about the sports column. Okay, now a table relative frequency. I'm talking about the entire table. What percent of people surveyed? What's first? People surveyed is how many? Okay, so you have, is that your subgroup or is that your total? Okay, so then I'm going to start my fraction down here. I have 50 on the bottom. Now, what's my subgroup? How many people like dancing? 18. I didn't say women that like dancing. I didn't say men that like dancing. I said how many people like dancing. So you're going to do 18 divided by 50. Now, you don't need a calculator for this because this is mental math. How did you get 36? You need 100%, right? Well, to get to 50, I have to multiply it by 2 to get to 100. So then I have to multiply this by 2. 18 times 2 is 36. So you get 36%. Mental math. Right? Mental math. Okay? Last thing. I probably won't get back to those other two-way tables. We'll just talk about this because we got to do some thinking with this. Mr. Goss wants to analyze his two-way table to examine if there is a relationship between doing homework and passing the last test. So A, what percent of Mr. Goss's class failed the test? Well, what's our fraction going to be? What's our subgroup? What's our subgroup? People that failed the test. How many people failed? Okay. How many people took the test? 30 people took it. So I do 12 divided by 30. And you get 0.4. So that's what percent? 40% failed. Not very good to see that. Right? Okay, what percent of Mr. Goss's class missed 2 or more homework assignments? So think of your subgroup, think of your total. What, our subgroup is 14? Because there's 14 that missed 2 or more homework assignments? And what is our total that we're going to divide by? Why 30? That's his whole class. I asked of his class. So 14 divided by 30. Is what?
47%.
46 or 47?
47 because you have to round it.
It's 46, but it's repeating.
So it's 47.
Okay, so we'll round to 47. Okay? C. Of those that failed the test, what percent? So now, what's your total this time?
Of those who failed the test.
How many people failed the test? Okay. How many people failed the test?
12.
12 people failed the test. So that's going to be your total. What percent missed 2 or more homework assignments? So how many missed 2 or more homework assignments of the 12? 11. So I'm going to do 11 divided by 12.
92%.
Of those that missed 2 or more homework assignments, so what's your total?
18. Just kidding. 14.
Total that missed 2 or more homework assignments is 14. It says, what percent passed? So what's your subgroup number? 3, the number of people that passed. Okay, so 3 divided by 14.
21%.
Of those who missed 0 or 1 assignment, 16 missed 0 or 1 assignment. What percent failed? 1 out of 16. 6.25?
62.5%.
No, 6.25. 6%. Part E, here's your analyzing part, right? You analyze the data that you see. Write a statement summarizing your analysis. Use relative frequencies to support your answer. What can you learn from these two things that we talked about? Failing the test and doing homework.
That the more people who did their homework actually passed their test.
Which percent tells you that?
92.
No. No.
21? Wait.
You told me. The people who did their homework passed the test.
Yeah.
So which number tells you that? Which one?
6%.
The 6%. Why?
Because it shows that the majority passed the test when they did it.
Okay. It shows that when they did their homework, only one person out of the people who did their homework failed. So 1 out of 16 failed when they did their homework. That's pretty good chances. Right? So it's showing if you did your homework, you probably passed the test. Okay? Now, what else supports that? Look at C. What does that tell us?
It says that those that failed the test.
So we're failing. These are people who failed the test now. Missed 2 or more homework assignments. Were there a lot of people that missed 2 or more homework assignments that failed that test?
Yeah.
11 of the 12 people who failed missed a lot of homework. So that's also saying what?
That kids who do their homework passed.
That kids that did their homework more than likely are more likely to pass. So that would be my analysis. Okay? Students who did their homework more likely passed. Okay? And then I would say due to part E and part C. Any questions today? Lots of fun, right? Lots of fun.